Hello and welcome to the Jay Duke Show on the Horse Network. It's been quite a year for us. There's been a lot of challenges to 2020, as we all know, but there's also been a lot of great things. And for myself personally, working with Carly Sparks and the Horse Network has been a wonderful thing in 2020 for me. And this show here has been one I've been looking forward to for a very, very long time. Very special guest coming to us from Germany. He's a living legend. And Ludger Beerbaum is going to be joining us in just a moment. And I'm very, very excited about today. And thank you all for joining us and watching the show and supporting the show. And speaking of that, I want to thank Equishopper. Equishopper is your place to go for all of your Christmas shopping. And they have a Cyber Monday sale going on right now. And you guys are going to want to check it out. They have literally everything. They're up to 80% off on their favorite brands. Back on Track, Rambo, Amigo, Horseware, Kelly Herd, Fitz, Shires, Good Rider, Iridian, Rokel, and so many more. Check out Equishopper. They have everything you need to get ready for those Christmas gifts and Christmas holidays for all of your loved ones and all of your horsey friends. So I'm going to bring on my very special guest, and the hardest part of today's show was trying to narrow down his accomplishments so that I could fit this all into a 30-minute package, because this guy has won everything that there is to win on there. But I'm just going to touch on a couple of his highlights. Ludger Beerbaum, he's been world #1 in the computer rankings on multiple occasions. He won the World Cup final in 1993 on Retina Z. He's been Rider of the Year 3 consecutive times. He won the CN International at Spruce Meadows on Gold Fever 3. He was victorious in the Aachen Grand Prix 3 different times. That's just phenomenal. Only 2 other riders have ever been able to accomplish that. He's been 8-time winner of the German Masters, 2-time European champion, 4-time medalist of the World Championships, and 4-time gold medalist at the Olympic Games, including the individual gold in Barcelona in 1992 on the amazing Classic Touch. Mr. Beerbaum, welcome to the Jay Duke Show.
Hello. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. Where are you joining us from tonight?
Excuse me? I didn't.
Where are you joining us from tonight? Where are you at?
Well, I'm joining you from Germany, home actually, my hometown, a little village north, west of Germany, close to the Dutch border, Riesenbeck.
Nice. Well, thank you so much for doing this. I want to start off, you've had a great career in riding, but I want to find out how it started out for you, as a young boy, and you started riding at a young age. And how did you get into equestrian sport?
Well, I didn't start super early. I was actually, in the early days, I had quite a bit of respect for the animal, for horses. And when I was about 10, a friend of mine was really keen to go and visit the local riding club and see the horses and start to ride. I always followed him. At that time, even more interested in playing football than riding. But step by step, 10, 11, 12, I got the taste. I lost the fear, which I actually in the beginning had. And we started really simple, basic riding school lessons. And when I was about 11, the first show, both a little bit of dressage, which in Germany in the beginning, the fundamentals are quite important. And then when I was about 12, also we started jumping. And then the competition, I have to say, I pretty much liked. And so I started really, really easy, not too early actually.
Okay. And you started off when you're about 10 or so, and you got involved with the horses. And how did it work? How did you get started riding for Paul Schockemöhle? So Paul Schockemöhle is such a famous name in the equestrian world. He's had such a great influence, and you were part of that tree from the Schockemöhle stables. And how did you get started there, and what influence did Paul have on your career?
Yeah, without a doubt, he had a great influence to my entire career. But from when I started, what we just talked about, when I was about 10, 11, till I got there, I was 21. And in those 11 years, I've actually also had a good time. I was lucky, fortunate in the beginning to have some quite nice horses in the junior age, young rider age. And I remember I was about 15. There was a clinic held in our area where I lived, south of Hanover. At that time, Hermann Schritte, also known as the Olympic champion, was the German coach. He was holding that clinic, and I had the chance to compete there and to ride. And after the clinic, he invited me every year in the school holidays to go and see him ride. So from 15 on until I was 20, 21, I regularly went, especially in the summer holidays, 6 weeks to ride. And he was quite a strong support in the early days. And he also was the one who opened the door for me to Paul's stay, really. And he introduced me to Paul, and he said, "This is a boy I know from the area south of Hanover, Lower Saxony, and if you need someone to ride and maybe later on also be there as a professional rider, have a look and give him a chance, have an interview." And that because of him, I actually got the opportunity, and I had to convince my parents to get a year off from university at the time, which was not easy because they thought I should finish the university first and then start riding as a professional. But then we kind of agreed that I have a year off, and if I can make my living, I can stay, and if not, I have to go back to university. So I never went back to university, but the 5 years then actually also in Mühlen with Paul were very, very exceptional, and I had a great time because of Paul, because of the environment, because of the opportunities I got. At the same time, when I was there, Frankus Lothar, the hero I was really looking up to, was every day daily training, riding, helping me a lot. So looking back and coming back to your question, without a doubt, this was a very influential time for me. No question.
That's so you were training at the same time there with Frankus Lutak, who also has had an incredible career and one of the pillars of German equestrian show jumping. So did you two do you feel push one another to be the best, and really do you think the two of you kind of played off one another to develop your skills and develop that competitive edge?
Well, at the beginning, I think Franco was already a star when I came there, and I was probably number 23 in the ranking, and he was number 1 by far. So I the first 2 years I wasn't. He didn't even recognize me as being there, not even thinking about a competitor. But in the end, the last 2 years, I think there was a healthy competitiveness between us, and also friendship. And really, if I look back, especially now when we talk about it, by watching him and by having him around and also being beaten many, many times, it was a great but tough school. But
yes.
Looking back, it helped me a lot, no question, in a lot of ways.
I'm sure it did. Can you look back, was there a moment when you felt you had your first breakthrough on the international stage where you were like, hey, look, I can do this, and I can compete with these guys? And, can you think of a specific class or horse show where Ludger Beerbaum emerged and that was the beginning of that career for you?
Well, first, before answering that question, I have to say that it took quite a while for me I wasn't the star born into this equestrian world, It took me quite a long time to prove myself, but prove my parents, prove my surroundings to be able to not only make my living, but also to, be competitive and be able to beat the Slotaks, John Whitakers, Michael Metz at the time. It took me years. It was not that I came in this sport and then I was there to beat everyone. Really not. It took me actually quite a while, and there was some times where I had quite a lot of doubts whether I would be able to one time beat these guys. At the beginning, more of in the situation, I realized how far away, how far ahead they were of me. And I have to say, then after 3-4 years in Mühlen with Paul, I realized I had my first Grand Prix wins. 88, that was the first time German champion. That was a quite great achievement at the time. Paul was there with Deister, Franke, with Schweizerkönig. Here and there, I won a Grand Prix, also against the Whitakers here in Europe. It's that means a lot. John with Milton at the time. So then that was some moments where I thought, well, I think I can do it. But then the next thing is also, you can win once and you can win twice, but you realize it's, you can be lucky here and there, but to stay on the top for quite some time, it's another challenge. And that took again some years to prove myself whether I would be really able to do this, not just with one horse, but also with different horses and different occasions and situations. And yeah, it took some time. And even then, when I left the Schockemöhle stable in '89, I had 5 years then being more or less on my own, with great support from other sponsors at the time in South Germany near Munich. But that's again another challenge to try and find the horses yourself and organize the stable at home yourself. Again, for 1-2 years, I was a little bit not struggling, but doubting, and sometimes a little bit whether this would be successful or not. But
wow,
to say it worked.
That is really great to hear. That even for everyone out there, because everyone has their moments of doubt. And for somebody that has accomplished what you've done, that you have that human side to you as well. So I think that's definitely going to encourage a lot of people to keep working at it. And obviously, by keep working at it, you can see what is possible. So here in North America, there's 2 Grand Prix that are truly famous, of course, and one of those is Aachen, and I think Aachen is such a legendary place. And then Calgary, of course. So you've been champion in both places. You won the CN International once, and you've won Aachen 3 times, which I looked it up. Only Alwyn Schockemöhle and Nick Skelton have matched that feat. And so that class has been around since 1928, the Aachen Grand Prix. So what was it, competing at those venues? What is that like for you as a rider, and what is it like to win the championship at those places?
Honestly, that's something really, really special, and it may sound strange to some people listening tonight, funny, but I've been lucky to be quite young when I won my first gold medal in Seoul with a team in '88. Then another one in '92, but I was always aiming really to win one of these major Grand Prix. And when I won the first time in Aachen '96, I've been 3 times second already before, and I was also then doubting a little bit whether when you're 3 times second, wanting so much to win one time, you start to doubt that the day will come, or that you will have the chance to win in your home turf ground stadium with a lot of people coming and cheering you on. So it took quite some time from when I started, 85 to 96, to win in Aachen the first time. And the same actually parallel to this happened in Calgary. I've been second, not 3 times, 2 times, and in the jump off several times. And after 10 years going back and forth, so much wanting to win the Grand Prix, I started to, I don't know, maybe Calgary, I will not make it. But then once I made it and I realized I've done it after wanting it so much, it was quite, actually as emotional as winning an Olympic gold.
Wow. Yes. And that isn't shocking to me, but there is, the crowds and the history of those places, and, obviously to win Aachen on your home turf, but it is to have it where you've had that being so close so many times, and then to finally break through, that really is an accomplishment. And you've done this with multiple horses as well. And, usually I've had, such fantastic riders on here, and we can say, okay, well, this was their best horse or that one, but you've had so many amazing horses. Let's talk about that for a moment. The one that I remember you the very best on was Retina. of course, and such a dynamic and sensitive mare. But how do you think that you were able to, the Gold Fever horse and all of those? How is it that you were so blessed to have so many amazing mounts in your career?
Well, I first of all, I think you need a bit of luck, really, and life has to be good to you. I don't think I have any special skills to have the opportunities for decades to have so many good horses. Probably I was reliable enough and credible enough for people and owners to invest in myself and in my career, in their horses, in our common success. Yes, but in the end, it's also quite a bit of luck, and things have to go positive. Otherwise, you were not able to do this. And for sure, Ratina, talking about championships or Olympic Games, reaches out there a little bit. No question. She was very, very successful already when I got her. That was quite a bit of a challenge for me again. And actually, also in the first season, I was a little... I didn't really know, because she was super successful already with the rider Pete Reimakers before me. Mm-hmm. And I have to say, I really had to adapt myself very much to her, instead of trying to, when you get a young horse, you're trying to make it a little bit, bring it up in your way. But she wasn't the biggest horse. She was super hot, which I'm quite tall, and I'm probably more familiar with bigger horses, and not so sharp and hot. So it took quite some time for me to adjust to her. And I always thought, because she was so good, so why I shouldn't really change her. I have to adapt myself to her and not the other way around. And then I had talking about Gold Fever, I mean, from the 3 Grand Prix in Aachen, he won 2, and he also won the one in Calgary. Winning Grand Prix, probably he was the most successful horses I ever had, even though he was not the classical championship horse. But Grand Prix, once you were in the jump off with him, it was absolutely pleasure to go with him against the clock. Also with my way of riding, he could really run to the jumps, and he turned well. So in terms of temperament and physical abilities, we were probably the best match. And another horse I really love to remember was Champion de Lys, a French horse, a little grey stallion. He won the Hamburg Derby twice. He won everything: speed classes, nations, he was a really winner type of horse. Again, not the championship horse like Ratina or like Classic Touch. But yeah, and there was Gladys. She won the Europeans. She won, I don't know, multiple Grand Prix. Again, another great horse for me to have, and then lots of others. Priamos, I only got him when he was 14. But he still was able to win 1.5 million German marks at the time. So yeah, I've been lucky in my entire career to always have a lot of nice horses around me.
What is your philosophy when it comes to with training horses, and as far as with the style? Because again, if we look at some of those horses like the Ratina horse and the Gold Fever horse, you could actually say they are very modern type horses. There are horses that you see a lot of that style today. In the 90s and that time, they weren't as, they were a little bit different. But then say with the Classic Touch horse, which just made everything look so easy, and just such beautiful style with the Classic Touch horse. So how do you, as a rider, I guess, do you have the philosophy of getting the horse to adapt to you, or do you try to adapt to the horse, or how does that work for you?
Well, I think it needs both. I really believe you can't say I like the horses to adapt to me. Of course, in a way, for I would say about 50%, but the other 50% for sure you have adapt to the horse. You cannot really change the horse's natural style and natural frequency of strides. And a blood horse, you have to ride a little different than a cold warm blood horse. And actually, the way I was brought up, my first 10 years in riding, I was more teach the German way on colder blood horses, a bit of German way of riding. It took me quite some time to adjust to these blood type of horses, which also by realizing to be able to beat these guys that here in Europe, the fast French riders, the English, the Whitakers, also the Americans, every now and then when they came over here to Europe, they were going so fast, and the way with the German way of riding, more the collective style, it was just not possible to do this speed. So and then that was not done in a couple of months. It took me several years to get this forward blood horse way of riding, you know. So, but I always try to also improve, and I still believe that today, in terms of training or adapting a style, my style, to different horses, I'm still today, even though I don't win as much as I probably did 10 years ago, I'm a better rider and teacher and trainer than I was 5 or 10 years ago, because there is not a single week passing on where you don't find areas to improve things.
Right. Yes. Yeah, and that's what I've admired most about your career is your adaptability, and so thank you for answering that. And because that is something which I think in some cases is a little bit lacking. You see it in some great riders, but other riders try to mold the horse to them, and I think it really is important to work with their natural skills. So I want to ask you. I rode for Team Canada and such, and going up against Team Germany was always, a little bit intimidating because of the consistent success that Germany puts out there. What is it about the German team success at an elite level? Because they really, if you were to pick a nation, they really would be the number one nation as far as international success out there. What's your secret?
Well, I really believe that there is no special secret. I think in terms of the human beings or the skills, the natural skills, there's no differences between the Canadians and the Germans. Really, really, really not. The difference for us is, for sure, I think we are a little bit privileged. We are grown up in a horse environment where we have breeding over hundreds of years, selective breeding thoughts, how to improve the physique, the health of the horses. We have access to so many different good caliber of horses, not only show jumping, in dressage, in eventing, and we have a great source to pick every single year new up and coming horses. And in the same time, we have an industry around us with talking about farriers, how to maintain a horse, how to feed a horse in the best possible way. And the whole setup is so strong in Germany that when you come from Germany as a human being, man or woman or girl or boy, you have a lot more chances than if you come from countries where the horse industry is not so strongly developed. And I think that's, to me, the key difference, really.
Yeah, and that having that team environment and taking care of all the fundamentals and the basics and that, and even like the support from the public and all of that sort of thing. And it is in Germany, it's such a pleasure to go there, and whether we're shopping or whether we're competing, and just that professional culture to show jumping there, it's wonderful to see.
Yes, no, absolutely. And the whole system is like, I mean, we with the horses, we are actually connected to the agriculture industry. Like, our horses are not, sorry to say, it's not, I don't mean it in a bad way, but not treated as pets. They are, they get support. We get government support for breeding, for basic riding lessons, for local riding clubs, for horse shows. It's a big industry. I mean, only in Germany, the turnover in horse industry is 6 billion euros.
Wow.
So that's a lot of money for relatively not. We are not small, but for just one country.
Yes. Yeah. That's fantastic. What, for young riders out there, like, what would be your advice right now if you are, say to a 16-year-old young rider who's, loves the sport and loves the industry, maybe they've shown some and have some show some talent and interest in it, what would be your advice to them as far as the best way to help to advance their career if a young rider came to you and asked you that question?
Yeah, that's also not an easy question to answer, but my first thought is then just trying to take pressure off, just make sure you be enough committed, don't give up too early. Especially in today's world, that's probably a little bit different also when I look back when I started. The environment is so busy and so much distraction. You can do so many other things than when I was little. Once you had to decide for something, you had to be committed because there was not many opportunities to do anything else. But in today's world, there's a lot of opportunities, a lot of access to other sports, to internet, social media, and all these things. So many distractions also. To make it to the top, you have to be 100% committed. That's, I think, the main advice I can give. And then in the same time also, of course, be patient. Don't give up too early. But the commitment is very, very important. Don't take things for granted.
That's excellent advice, and 100% agree with you. And for those of you that are watching, we're seeing the results of that philosophy right here. Let's discuss, the international riders and, the sport moving forward. So, we've got, the world, as you said earlier, the world's getting a little smaller with how, the competition from in different continents, with Global Champions Tour and the Major League Series and all of that great stuff happening. How do you think that the riders can be involved to help improve the industry with, like the European riders working with the North American riders, working with the South American riders? There's riders in the Middle East now and all of that, coming together to create a better sport. How do you, because I know you have some involvement in that. How do you envision that?
No, I think that's really, really important. Actually, to me, for the future of our sport, that's crucial. And especially in the last 3, 4, 5 years, this thanks. Also, I've been not daily involved, but involved in especially the collaboration between the European riders, so to say, the International Jumping Riders Club and the North American Riders Association. Coming together, talking about problems together, speaking to the own federations at home, to the governing body, and trying to bring everything together and a bit closer, really, because we have different situations in North America and in Europe. Only just one aspect, the entry fees, how to get to shows. A lot of Americans are coming every year to Europe to perform here, the Nations Cup series, then qualifying for the finals. Germans are, or not only Germans, but also, of course, also Europeans are going every year to the States, especially in the beginning of the year or in the winter in Wellington. So I think it's important that we start to work together because we all have one ranking system. We want to earn ranking points. We want to give opportunity every year, fair opportunities to qualify for championships and every 4 years for Olympic Games. There's still quite a bit to improve to make sure that everyone has a fair chance to go to the shows, to these shows, and trying to make results, earn points, and finally qualify for their home team, or for the Olympics every 4 years. And we have to be aware that we have sometimes also different views or even a little bit different cultures, and we have to respect that. But I really believe the more transparent we are working together, we are putting also probably different views on the table and trying to find the best compromise. It's the right way to continue to move forward and to make our world as fair as possible, and also make the outside world believe that everyone has a chance and has access to the sport, to the horse, and to the competition. I really think that's important. And if you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said, we are still really far apart and it's two different worlds, two different cultures. But no, we are getting closer. There's still a way to go. Don't get me wrong here. Mm-hmm. It's not everything perfect yet, but I think we are on a positive way. I'm absolutely convinced.
So I want to get your opinion on international competition and nations cups moving forward. So for the viewers that are unaware, the original format in the nations cups was you would have 4 horse rider teams, combinations, and then one of the scores would be dropped. And now moving forward, they're looking at having 3 on a team without a drop score. So, you've been on, countless international competitions and nations cups and had amazing success with the team. Thank you to Carly Horse Network for these wonderful pictures. There's Ludger there on the left of your screen. What do you feel as far as, from a Nations Cup point of view, as far as not having that drop score? Do you think that improves the competition or detracts?
Without a doubt, I think it's a delicate decision. I was also in my role in the Jumping Riders Club a little bit involved in this process, and I understood that from the IOC there was a wish that they want more flags, so we have to cut something to make sure in every 4 years in the Olympic Games, which I really believe that our sport that is crucial for our sport to stay in the Olympic family and to stay in the Olympics. So there was a strong argument to say, well, we have to make sure we need more flags, more teams able to join the Olympics. But on the other hand, I really believe that it's a delicate decision, because it will be very tough for chef d'équipe to select, to say who is third, who is fourth, are the horses fit, is the third horse fit and healthy enough, even though it's better, and the fourth is maybe not as good, to go in or not in to get rid of this scratch result. It's a very tough decision, I believe, and I didn't ride at the time, but in the 60s, Tokyo, and I think also Mexico Olympics in 64, 68, we had already 3 riders, and we changed that because it didn't really work. Sometimes the horse wasn't really 100% fit and had to perform. And I think it has been proven that the 4-rider format is actually the one which works. And if we put all the pros and cons on the table, I still believe that it's 70-30 for 4 riders, and 70 for 4 and 30 for 3. Horse welfare, team spirit, a little bit less pressure on each horse and rider combination. So to me, there's no question the 4-rider format is the one I definitely prefer. And maybe we can have a little protocol now. I believe in the next 4, 5, 6, whatever years, we will one day go back to 4.
Yeah.
I know I agree with you. Want to hear this, and there's different views about it. But if you ask me straightforward, what I prefer, what I believe it's better, is the 4-rider format.
Yeah, and we're on the same page there for all of the reasons you explained. I certainly understand the reasons as far as moving the sport forward from a popularity point of view, and they're looking at the numbers as far as making that change. But we're definitely on the same page there. Let's one more question about the evolution of the sport. So how do you see, say, from when you were competing 25 years ago, the sport today? We certainly the jumps design has changed. The time alloweds have gotten tighter. As you talked about earlier, the speed of the game has definitely stepped up. But then on the other hand, maybe some of the bravery tests and some of the scope tests have become less so of what's asked of the horse and the rider in the field. What do you think as far as what's happened in the past 25 years with the sport, and are you happy with the progression?
Well, basically, yes. I think the sport has developed in a lot of ways. I mean, today we have a starting field. Let's take the example Aachen or Calgary, with 40 riders in the Grand Prix, where really 25, 30 are able to win on the day. I mean, really, and 25 years ago there was a handful. We knew these four or five will make it today, and the others are competing. But so the top has gone much stronger, and there's more people able today to win, to perform well, to win a championship medal or to win one of the majors. So that definitely has improved, and also there's more horses around really on that high level. I mean, I remember when we invented the star level system. That is more than 20 years, almost 25 years ago. I remember we then looked at the calendar and said, okay, we say 500,000 Swiss francs and more is 5-star show. There was 5 on the whole world. Today there's a little bit less than 100. It almost varies between 90 and 100. Can you imagine? They're even since 2-3 years talking about the 6-star level. So that shows how much the sport has developed and advanced. But it has gone quite far, and in terms of lightness of poles and designing for the course builder, it has been a very, very difficult job. If it's a little bit easier, too many clears, and if you don't want too many clears, especially in the top Grand Prix, again, Aachen and Calgary, sometimes it can get a little bit too extreme the other way. Then we have this, hind boots issues where you in the jump off you go maximum speed, and no matter what the horses don't knock any jumps down behind. So now they're trying to calm things down a little bit, bring everything a little bit back to more natural. Maybe the jump off's a little bit slower, so you have to collect your horse a little bit from a speed line, and to make sure the back end is coming up and not coming up because you have tight boots. So it gets a little easier for course builders. Maybe also the cup's not super flat anymore, and everything a little bit more back to where we were before. And then also not a 5-star Grand Prix on a 150 track, then come back to 155 or 160. So I think it's something that needs a bit of fine tuning. But in general, I think if you compare the sport 25 years ago and today, we've gone a long way, and I would say 85-90% of the courses, horses, riders have definitely improved.
That's excellent. So you've gone up against everybody. You've beat everybody, and you've lost to some of them at times as well. Who's the horse and rider that is the one that you feel was the most challenging for you over time? And obviously it's hard to narrow that down to one, but you mentioned a few riders. You mentioned the Whitakers and Michael Matz, who is a friend of our show, and people like that. But, was there a rider that you were like, okay, geez, there's just 2 in the jump off, or he's after me, and that's the one I've really got to watch out for? Is there someone that stands out in your career?
Yeah, I always, yes. If I have to just pick one, I would prefer to pick a few. But if I just have to pick one, the one I really, already when I was young and always admired him and never really believed I could beat him. But then if I made it, I was always worried when he was coming still, or also with different horses. But without the question, it's John Whitaker, because he was doing things which not many riders are able to do, because he could win a super fast class, super fast jump off, and still make it look super easy. And he could win on a horse with Milton, it was enjoying to watch him perform and winning, because he did it so smooth and so easy. And Milton was by nature not the fastest horse, because he was flying over the jumps and took his time in the air. But then he could win on Granush, on a little tiny chestnut, not really having much scope, and he won even the Grand Prix in Calgary with him. And if I put all the things about competitiveness, getting the maximum with the minimum effort, John is really, in my entire career, the one to look at. But of course, there's others. If you ask me it was for many years very difficult to beat Hugo Simon on ET. I had also at the time with Ratina, when Hugo was still coming, was always thinking, oh my God, if there's a chance he somewhere can make it a bit faster. So, there's been quite a few. Rodrigo Balubé was also outstanding sometimes in the jump off. when you knew he was still left to go, because they could just do it probably quicker. So
yeah, no, those you're right. It's pretty much impossible to nail it down to one, and I know all three of those guys were just so incredible. So if you could have, and I love to ask this question of my riders, and it's another tough one, but if you could have one horse to ride for one class, and you got to pick whatever horse that was, who are you going to pick? And I often would say it has to be someone else's horse, but you've ridden so many great ones. If you want to pick one of your own horses as well, I'll let that go for this question. But what horse, one class to, for everything, are you going to put your saddle on?
Well, with my own horses, that's really difficult, because it's a little bit like if you have a couple of kids and you ask, who's your favorite one? I don't really
Yes.
I don't really like to answer that. If I could pick one from all the ones I've seen, and then I think of which one would also in a way suit me, in all terms, size-wise, conformation, rideability, blood, I would pick Galloway.
Yes. Wow. Well, he's certainly a very famous sire, and was such an incredibly consistent horse.
What a machine! And,
yeah.
I think as a young horse, he wasn't the most easy one. It took him some time to educate him and to bring along. And I think in the early days, Neko has played an important role to this horse and educating this horse. But then once he was in the international scene and ready, he was unbelievable. There was nothing this horse could not do. For this horse, there was nothing impossible. He could do everything.
Everything. There wasn't a jumper, of course, that he couldn't handle. And we had Neko or Nelson Bissot on the show a couple months ago, and he was such a privilege to speak with in his horsemanship and speaking with riders like yourself. The knowledge and the wisdom that you have is really inspiring for everyone watching the show, and I really appreciate the time. And thank you so much for being on today.
Thank you very much. I really enjoyed it. Thanks, and good luck for your show and everyone involved.
Oh, well, we're so happy to do this with Horse Network, and Carly Sparks is making it all happen behind the scenes, and that's so important. And I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and I want you to join us next week as well. We're going to have another roundtable on the mileage rule in the United States, and it's a very hot topic, and we have some top show managers coming on. We're really hoping to have USEF come on the show, and I want to further discuss that because that affects all of us here. I want to thank EquiShopper, up to 80% on all of your gifts for your horsey friends. So check them out at equishopper.com. And as always, ride safely and respect the horse, and we'll see you next week. Thank you.
Thank you.